Perfect. Well, before we get started, we will take just a quick second. And Mark, you probably want to add in on this. This is our first little K1 training, and we thank all of you guys for being on. We are excited about the collaboration this offers between all three market centers. There are amazing agents at all three that we can learn from. We're kicking off with living. We'll kind of pull agents from each market center as we go. So I thank those of you who are on, and also a huge special thank you to Karen. We've kind of pivoted today. We had a scheduling snafu, and I thought, oh no, who can fill in for Keisha? She's the first person I thought of, and she said absolutely. And
I'm delighted.
This topic. So thank you so much.
Culture award to Karen. Thank you, Karen.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this came about. We've been beta testing this for the last couple of months in a different format, Jill. And I think across these three market centers, there's a lot of genius. And we found that, Jill's teaching a great class that legacy people might benefit from, and vice versa. So this doesn't mean that the training calendars of each market center is just totally going to merge, as much as at least a couple times a month, 2 times a month, at least at the outset. We want to put our heads together and be better together, because a spirit of collaboration, cooperation, support always wins the day, but I would say particularly wins the day in a market of scarcity, which a lot of people are kind of operating from right now. So our hope is that whether you're in the greater Solon area or the greater Strongsville area or the greater Canton, Mansfield, Ashland, et cetera area, that we can be stronger together.
Beautifully said, Mark. Thank you. So as we get started, first off, what is a niche? And I would summarize that just by, we are kind of specializing a segment in real estate. So this doesn't have to be just a type of home you sell. It could be a group of people you target. It could be a neighborhood you target, a community you target. The options for what a niche actually is goes on and on and on. So to dive into this, I would love to introduce 2 agents that our market center wildly looks up to, and so do I, Mike Magno and Miss Karen Hillman. And I will just take the mic over to them. Karen, do you want to introduce yourself and maybe tell us what your niche is?
Sure. Karen Hillman. I'm on the Amanda Pullman team at KW Living. My niche is working with people that are 50 years and older. And as a result of that, I really focus working with them in the luxury market. So luxury market in Ohio, especially this area, is a lot different than you would think of, like in Boca Raton, Florida, or California. So we're talking about over 500 or 700,000 in that range is where I find a group of people that I'm working to develop a relationship with.
So,
as a listing specialist too, I should say that.
Oh yes, for sure. And then Mike, what about yourself? Could you introduce and let us know, if we don't already know, what your niche is?
Right. Yeah, so I'm Mike Magno. My wife Diana and I are agents out of Living, and my niche is working solely with investor clients. And I've been doing that now for about 3 years, since Diana came on full-time with me when she quit her job. I transitioned away from working with anybody that was not an investor. So, and to niche it even down further than that, I probably do 95% of those investors are not local. So to take it down even further, it's mostly people that aren't here in Ohio. Many people I've never met, other than a Zoom call or a phone call. Very few ever step foot on the properties, or here in Ohio. So, and I've built my entire business around it. So.
Mike, can I ask you what made you make the switch 3 years ago to solely working with investors?
Yeah, so I got in the business in very late 2016, and in 2017 is kind of when I got going. I did, I think, 16 transactions that first full year. And I learned very quickly that working with people that were buying and selling their like forever home wasn't going to be a way for me to be an agent for a long time in this business. I'm very analytical, very transactional, and I don't think of it in those terms. So I knew very early on, like I wasn't going to like doing that. And I did it obviously because you have to start somewhere. But I did, my dad and I flipped a condo that year. And then I randomly picked up another client who flipped a couple houses and I partnered with, and then he eventually, I think in 2018 and 2019, he bought several six unit apartment complexes. And I enjoyed that more because it was a numbers based transaction. You know, you set your criteria, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, you move on. Whereas, you know, the normal buyers and sellers get so caught up in the countertops, the paint colors, the carpeting, the view of their backyard, things that you can't change, or you can change, but they don't want to change. Or, you know, we've all had sellers who have no idea what their property is worth, right? I learned very early on, I'm here to sell your property, not list your property. So, I mean, I've turned down many listings in my time where people just have an unrealistic view of, you know, what it's worth and things like that. So that's why I enjoy working the investor clients as opposed to your everyday buyer and seller.
Sure.
And the timing was because that's when Diana got licensed. So she got licensed in 2019. She did a few transactions that first year. She was still working full time. Mm-hmm. And then in 2020, when COVID was probably the best thing that happened to her and us from a business perspective, because it gave her the time away from her full-time job because her job got shut down. And it gave me the opportunity then literally push my chips into the table, so to speak, and lean into the whole investor thing. And that's when it just simply exploded for me.
That's great. And it sounds like you, once you got your feet wet, it was like, where are your interests? That's something we don't pay attention to enough. Like, what in the role, from, if you could write down every task you have to do, what sparks the most joy? It sounds like you enjoyed that number side. Yeah,
I mean that, and then just getting the deals done. You know, I'm just I have a very super high D, right? So I have a very short attention span. I don't like paperwork. I mean, Diana will attest to that. The amount of times we get emails from Ricky saying, "Hey man, you got like 4 commission checks here and we can't pay you so because there's no paperwork." It happens a lot. So I just like to fire through, and I do it the same way because we're investors too. We own several properties. We do a bunch of fix and flips. Jill, I was telling you about one on the phone the other day, and I make quick decisions. I take about 5-10 minutes analyzing a property, and if I like it, great. If I don't, I move on. And that's just the way that when you're doing that type of buying in real estate, those are the types of decisions you have to make.
Absolutely. So Karen, moving over to you, what do you feel when you're looking at that 50 and over and more luxury based market? What do you think makes you different from competition, or what would be your value proposition for your sellers?
Right. Yeah. So that's my age group, right? Before I started real estate, I sold, I was in sales, a professional sales, business to business sales in large corporations like Granger Industrial Supply. I worked with attorneys. I worked with a large group of people who are preparing for their retirement. So I understand and know what they're going through right now. Not only that, but I kind of know how they think a little bit better. I think I identify with them. That's a niche. I've also aligned myself with some amazing partners and resources in the industry. My own team on the Amanda Pullman team, for example. Also outside of that, I've learned what are the problems and challenges of this group of people? What do they need the most? And I've gone out and sought out what those professionals outside of our real estate industry itself, and align myself so I can offer them kind of a one-stop shop place to go.
That's
The certifications also, I went out and sought the certifications and the continuing education, the relationships with the people that that knew more than I did about it, and just, you know, be a sponge, listen to everything your clients say and what the other professionals around you say. That's my unique proposition, is having all of that information and expertise available right here. And if I don't know it, I have so many connections. I can reach out to them and get the answer.
That's great. And Karen, when I called her and she so graciously stepped in here, she said, "Oh, that's perfect. I was just in a class focusing on this." So
Yes.
she is always learning. And I also like that you said too, you said, you know, this is my age range. And what did they say? Like, you sell with stories and you sell through relationships. So what better way, you know, to connect and try and understand. And I think that's great.
Absolutely. Even words you use, you know, they're like, every generation seems to have certain words. You connect with that stuff.
Yes.
So it's just a natural place to go for me.
That's great. And then, Mike, what about you? What do you feel sets your business apart from other agents that solely work with investors?
So for me, I think it's multifaceted. One is the knowledge base that I have, and it's across multiple types of investing in real estate. Having cut my teeth flipping houses and learning that part of the process and the construction costs and things like that, is invaluable, because of the snap decisions that you have to make, and you have to be able to act quickly and think quickly, and you don't have a lot of time oftentimes in these situations. So that's one area of it. And then just knowing the different submarkets that we're in, you know, in Cleveland and Akron and, you know, et cetera. So, I mean, I've got people that buy all kinds of different property types, whether it's single families that they turn into rentals. I've got a couple people that have bought single families to turn into short-term rentals in Cleveland, surprisingly enough. I've got people that do fix and flip. I've got people who strictly buy multifamily. I have people who buy small apartment buildings. So I've got, you know, and they all have different challenges. You're going to have different, you're going to have different things that you have to deal with through the transaction. So that certainly enables me to give them a leg up on the competition. Being able to point out things to people that the average agent can't do, when it comes to structure. You know, I always, obviously, to not get into any trouble, I always tell people that obviously I'm not a home inspector, but, you know, it's stupid things, right? I've learned how to read the serial numbers on a furnace, right? Like, who wants to know how to read the serial number on a furnace? Not many people, but I can, and I can tell you when the furnace was manufactured, right? Like, same thing with air conditioning, same thing with hot water tanks, same things with, you know, understanding electrical systems, understanding plumbing systems, just all the construction stuff that goes along with investing. I think really gives me a unique advantage over a lot of people.
For sure.
You know, because you have agents that don't know what they're doing. I mean, you know, so it really plays to my advantage with what I have. And, you know, also that enables me to get deals that a lot of other agents don't get, right? I've had countless. I had an agent just this week call me that I've done deals with in the past, knows about my business, knows that I have a deep investor list of people. And he was like, "Hey, I've got this property. The deal fell apart. We haven't signed the release yet. You know, could you maybe try to sell it to one of your investors for me?" So I said, "Okay, give me a couple of days." This was like on last Thursday. I told him I'd try to run through the property on Friday. I didn't get to it on Friday. I got to it Saturday morning. I ran through the property. I did a quick video of the property. And what I do for my investors and for my clients, I will obviously upload the videos to YouTube and then create a private link for them. And then on this particular property, I sent out a I sent out a email to my database for single family investors with a link to the listing, with a link to the YouTube video, and a link to the analysis that I put together for the property. And then a quick, like half paragraph snippet of the highlights of the property, major mechanicals, repairs, renovations, etc. And I had 4 people raise their hand and say, I'd be interested in buying that deal. And I actually ended up getting it under contract with one of my other clients. So
That's great. Absolutely great.
and that's, that's a property I hadn't, what did I do to sell it? I didn't, I mean,
You had a book
I
of
ran
business
through,
ready to go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I mean, these people are, the database that I've built and the clientele that I've built, I mean, these people are hungry. I mean, literally hungry. As you can see, I sent out one email, right?
Mm-hmm.
And was able to get someone to buy that particular property. So, so that all kind of encompasses what I bring to the table when it comes to these types of transactions.
Yeah. What about, so Karen, it is suggested if people don't have a niche to do some self-reflection on your interests, values, or skills to find your niche. Do you feel like your niche was obvious? Did it happen naturally? Or did you do some soul searching to find an area you specialize in?
Right. Yeah. So I think the first thing that we want to do, or that I did, is you take a look at your database and, what are the obvious things to notice? Like, and that's what I noticed. Most of my people, we did something with children, and I found like only 10 of my sphere had little kids, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in that line. So, and the other thing was, one of the certifications I got was the SRES, Senior Real Estate Specialist. And that really resonated with me also, because I felt like I can talk to senior citizens really easily. I mean, I connect with them very easily. And I think that finding out, digging even deeper, getting into the demographics. So maybe it's the people that are in that age group in a specific area, because I've done more business in that area, or maybe I know more people in that area. Like yesterday I was showing in Cuyahoga Falls. I happen to have tons of family that live there. So I could drop names. I can point out areas that I know. Just think about who you know and what you know, and where does the majority of that, and what do you enjoy? Right? What do you enjoy solving? What do you enjoy doing? What do you like about people, and what do you have in common?
That is really, really good advice. And I actually wrote this down, like circled it, take a look at your database. That is such a great point and a good aha when you had the client event that had to do with kids. And, you take a look back through, if any of you are struggling, what do I want to specialize in? Or what's my knack? Or what area you even brought up, what areas do you specialize in?
Where is there the most need?
Yes.
Can you solve that problem? So we got this huge group of people that are moving into retirement. The largest amount of money is going to be passed on here in this next decade. So it whatever makes sense for you.
Yes, that is so great. Where's the gap? Where can you solve a need? That's great advice.
Jill, can I
yeah.
jump in with a question or
Sure.
comment? I think there's kind of 2 categories of niches. Don't worry, guys, I'm buckled up and I'm safe. One is niches within real estate, and then the other is niches in like life. And I think sometimes, particularly if you're newer, it's like, I don't know, like I'm not an investor specialist like Mike is. Like I feel intimidated just hearing him talk, or I'm not, a senior relocation specialist. Like there's niches in real estate, but you might be passionate about something in life. And so even if the niche within real estate is not evident to you, like that's okay. Join the majority there. But there's certainly something, and we had a class in our office a week or 2 ago where the encouragement was pick something that you can talk about for 30 minutes. Is it music? Is it craft beer? Is it your kids? Like what gets you fired up outside of real estate? Because that's going to be the place where you're most likely to generate business. So in case you're feeling daunted by them talking about their expertise, you're an expert in something, even if it's not a lane within real estate. That's what I have to say.
Absolutely agree. And I would say this too, in every circle of your life, how can you go? Niches are all about going deep rather than wide. And, like Karen's going deep in that part of her database. Mike is going deep in that part of his database. And I would look at circles when I would go back, when I was fully in sales, and I'd see where my business came from. The nail salon I go to, I think 4 of my deals in 12 months were from 4 different people there. My yoga studio, in 6 months, I had 2 deals from there. So going like, even if you don't have an exact niche, like I work with these people or I work in this neighborhood, think about what circles you are a part of and how can you go deeper in those circles. Great point, Mark. Mike, curious, my next one for you would be, which of your services drive profit, not just revenue? So have you noticed something you do that has paid off, whether it's leads you're paying for or marketing you do? Is there something in your business as you're targeting your niche audience? Is there something you're doing that's paying off in revenue?
I mean, for us, it's 2 things. It's the repeat business, right? Because that's one of the other things that I always thought of. How do I make my life easier in real estate? If I want to sell 50 homes in a year, and let's say only 10 of those people buy and sell, then you need to find another 30 clients, right? Well, what if you find 10 clients that buy 3 houses? And so to me, that was always something I was like, well, that's what investors do. Investors always invest, they always buy. So that's something for me. And then, the other thing is, for me, many of you guys know, bigger pockets has been a huge thing for me. I've been a part of that community since 2017. I was I forget what they used to call it, but a premier agent or whatever on the site, and I got a lot of business just by being present in the forums that they have online and answering questions. And then you do a deal, and then guess what? Somebody asks about, hey, I want to invest in Cleveland. Well, then somebody you did a deal with then tags you in a post, and then it just kind of builds and builds and builds. And then back in what was it? It might have been 2021. Bigger Pockets rolled out this new program that they do now with agents. It's called Featured Agent. And I got on a conference call with my sales rep, and they're driving all this business. They're telling us how they're going to drive all this business and leads to the agent, because the agent should be like the front of the transaction, right? The agent knows the lender, the agent knows the property manager, the agent knows the insurance agent, the agent knows the contractors, the agent knows the property inspector. So like they were trying to drive all the traffic to the agents that supported the site. So when they launched that program back in, I think it was June of 2021, I was actually the first agent in Cleveland that signed up for it. So, and I've built, I get so many calls now, like people they just find me, I had somebody call me today. She's from Miami. I did 2 deals with one of her friends from California, and he gave her my name, and she just called me. She's like, hey, Jacob speaks the world of you. I want to buy properties, and I want you to be my guy. So for us, that's really the only place we've spent any money, any discernible like money in lead gen. But it's come back to me at least 10x.
Yeah, that's great.
So like I don't bother with Zillow, right? I mean, there's a lot of agents who do that, and I'm not bagging on that, whatever. But for us, we look at how are we going to get at least 5x on our money back. And it's been double-digit returns for us the last 3 years.
That's great. Karen, what about you? Whether it is money or time, what do you think has given you your biggest return on your investment?
You know, I'm just a believer. I truly do believe that anywhere you bring value, that it comes back to you. So I always try to show up with value no matter where I'm at. I try to align myself with people who know a lot of people, right? So I have a divorce attorney who works with high-end clients, high-end people. So I get referrals from them. I try to bring value to other agents in a co-broke situation. You never know where you're going to get an agent referral from, but you bring value in every situation and it shows up. But my agent referrals, my spear referrals, those all come out of bringing value to people.
Mhm. And talk about going deep in each
Yes.
circle of your life is
Absolutely.
bringing value, and it'll come
Yep.
back. So, one of the advantages of, having a niche is there's less competitors, so if you could say investing is my niche or whatever it is your niche, there's less competition-ish because there are less people who have your exact niche. However, there's always people doing something similar. So either one of you, although there's less competitors, how often are you analyzing your competition?
All the time.
That's great.
Got to know your competition.
Yeah, I was gonna say for Karen, it's probably more prevalent for Karen being in the higher end kind of niche than for me. There's a handful of agents out there that do a lot of what I do. And I know all of them for the most part. But Karen mentioned it earlier too. You never know where you're going to get referrals from other agents. My relationships that I've built with some of these agents have enabled me to get deals done because of whose name is on the contract. I can think of one right now. It was a fairly large team based on the East Side, does a lot of investments. I've co-broked with many, many times. And I wrote an offer in a multiple offer situation. And it was a newer agent on his team that was handling that particular listing. And he called me to tell me that his team leader told him that it would probably behoove them to work with us. Even though we weren't the highest offer, they encouraged their seller to take our offer because he knew that we wouldn't do things to try to screw it up later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Came to, inspections and we're very fair. We're very fair.
Yeah.
And we close, right? That's the biggest thing at the end of the day. When you're on the other end of a deal with someone, they want to know that you have the ability to get your client across the finish line. And so I think that's where it's really been helpful, is in that aspect of it.
Absolutely. Just like Karen, you mentioned earlier, finding the gap, or where is there a need, and what better way when, there are other agents out there doing a good job, and, oh, that's a great idea, but where can I make this better? Like, where is there a need, and how could I better serve my people? Again, either one of you here, has your brand changed as you have developed more of your niche, or how does your brand reflect your niche? Karen, you want to go?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was sharing with my partners on the team, everything we do is a marketing act, right? Everything, the email you write, the call that you make, the social media post that you make, the way you show up somewhere, everything is all about your brand. So we have to be thoughtful and strategic about that. I do other business also. I don't just work with, with 50 and over. I work, if the business comes in, of course, I'm going to take the business, but I ask myself, how does this further me in my goal to deep dive into this specific niche? And once I get, once you have one niche, you can have 2 niches or 3 niches. It's not recommended that you dive into 3 at the same time, but pick one, do other business, and create a sales funnel that draws people to it. So don't show up and say, hey, if you're a luxury client or if you're 50 and over, I can help you. Talk about what they need. Talk about talk about how you can help them, how you can solve their problem. Can I answer your question? I kind of feel like.
Yes, that was so good. I wrote down everything we do is a marketing act. Like, Bethany, if you're listening, if you could like splice what Karen just said, I feel like it could be a commercial. That was perfectly said in all of our businesses, everything we're doing, and everything we do is a reflection of us. And yeah, that was great. Mike, what about you as far as branding goes? Have you adjusted your brand, or do you feel your brand reflects your niche?
I probably actually don't do I probably don't do a good enough job with this, with branding myself. I also don't want to deflect, like Karen mentioned, I don't want to deflect away potential business as well. Diana does a great job handling most of our, regular clientele. And so, so it's not an instance where I don't want people to think, well, they don't do that. Right. Diana had a couple closings this week. One was a prior client of ours that we helped buy his home, and, he called us to list it. So we did. And then another one was someone that we worked with many, many years ago in our past life. And he reached out to us recently. Him and his wife were relocating to New York, and they were interviewing agents. Right. So I actually didn't do it. Diana did, she's gotten to the point now where she's confident and comfortable doing it on her own. So she went, did her, interviewed for the job, and they ended up hiring us, which was awesome. And we helped them sell their home and get it closed, and they're on their way to New York, and all is good. So I could probably do a little bit better job with with that aspect of our business. For me, I haven't done a good job.
There are two books that I would highly recommend that are really great at helping you to market your brand within your niche. And one of them is How to Write Copy That Sells by Ray Edwards. And the other one is The New Rules of Marketing and PR with David Meerman Scott. So you'll have to check it out. How to Write Copy That Sells and The New Rules of Marketing and PR. They're both available on Audible also, but they're excellent at deep diving and looking at all of the channels, because everybody communicates differently, right? So it's a comprehensive strategic plan on how to get people to remember you for your unique value proposition and your niche.
Whatever we want to say. That's great. And Karen, that segues perfect into what my next question was. We always need to be sharpening our craft and our tools. In what ways are you furthering your skill and knowledge?
Oh gosh, I'm always working to learn how to ask better questions. All of you that were at Glover U recently, Jeff Glover said you need to go 3 deep with your questions. And everywhere I read, they say pretty much the same thing: is you really want to ask questions and listen, let them talk, get them to talk, learn more about them. So I focus on that. I'm in a year-long coaching class that's teaching me how to create the coaching business right now. So that's why we were learning about niche, about how important it is to specialize and learn what value you can bring, because that's part of your sales funnel, right? At the bottom, that they become a client and you buy or sell a house from them. But there's so much other stuff that you can do for them. Do you know what that is? So I'm focusing on that.
That's great. And Mike, what about you? I know I'm interested to see what you would say, because I feel like you are the investment expert. Do you feel like you know all there is to know, or are you still furthering your knowledge and skills?
No, I mean, it's ever evolving, right? For me, 3 years ago, anybody could buy a multifamily property in Cleveland and make money. Today, that's not the case, right? Like, so you have to constantly evolve. And I think the way that I've been evolving is focusing in more on areas that it's well, one, like Karen said, you got to kind of ask, you got to get deeper in the question. So you got to understand the people's motivation first and what they're looking for. Because that's the other thing too. People always think, especially in the investment space, that because a deal doesn't cash flow or it doesn't make any money, that it's a bad deal. It might be a bad deal for you. It might not be a bad deal for the other person, right? Like they're investing in real estate is so nuanced, and it's so, it goes down this whole other world, right? Especially with the tax code in the US and how it's written, and how it affects high income earners and how much they can save in taxes. I mean, you'll have people, I've had people buy properties at a loss on purpose because they make so much money in a W-2 job or another business that they need active losses, right, to offset taxes. So like, they're not buying it to make money, they're buying it to lose money, right? So that's where you have to constantly evolve and understand, you know, where things are. And so for me, I mean, it's not as much, I'm not doing as much research as I used to. When I first got in, I was reading every single book I could. You know, the concepts are still, they're all still pretty much the same. But, you know, small things change. Where you have to look to find deals changes. And then where, you know, things that people don't think about as well. You know, the one quick example I would use would be, I get a lot of people who call me, never invested in real estate. They want to buy multifamily, right? Because that's what's romanticized on podcasts and Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, right? Oh, you got to buy multifamily. You got to have multiple doors, right? Well, in many parts of the country, multifamily, the tenants will pay all utilities, including water and sewer. Well, if you look at the Cleveland scene, that's not the way it is here. One, because most of our multifamily is very old properties, right? So like the water and sewer is not sub-metered. So it's like a small, subtle nuance that like a lot of people don't realize, that you have increased expenses in multifamily versus single family, right? So I might encourage a new investor to buy a single family home so that they learn the process. And the other things that come into play there is, you know, they can get better financing terms. People don't realize it. It's actually more difficult to finance an investment property than it is to finance a home that you're moving into. There's more restrictions, there's more guidelines. It's a whole different animal when it comes to financing, right? So the terms on multifamily, higher down payments are required, it's higher interest rates. For whatever reason, the bank deems them as more risky investments, so they're more expensive. So for the new investor, I might encourage them to go single family. They can put less money down. There's less expenses. There's less exposure. Plus the typical tenant, right? Like there's things that you can know about the type of tenant that you're going to have, right? The tenant that's going to rent a single family home is probably going to be a little bit better of a person. I don't know, that sounds terrible, but there are different levels of tenants too, right? The tenant who's going to live in a single family home versus the tenant who's going to live in a third floor walk up of a 16 unit building, right? It's a different person. So yeah, those are, I mean, there's just so much that goes on there, but I mean, you definitely still have to continue to stay on the game. What I do a lot of is just researching and staying abreast of what's going on nationally, because I get a lot of people who think that because prices are declining in their market, because they're in a high cost of living area, that's happening here. And I just kind of, I chuckle on the phone with them. Mm-hmm. You know, those of you who know me know I'm very straight shooter. I'll just tell it like it is. And you know, people who call me and they're like, "Oh, I want to buy something undervalued." I go, well, it's not 2018 anymore. So,
yep.
You know, the market dictates the value.
Right. Know your business inside and out. Like if it in luxury, do you know the difference between a quartz countertop and a granite countertop, or an oak wood floor, or a pine wood floor?
Yeah, I'd be way over my head up there with you. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So, go learn about that. Go hang out in a kitchen store.
I don't know anything about pool. I don't know anything about pools or wine cellars.
Yeah, exactly.
So before, I am going to leave a little time for question and answer, but I'm going to ask you guys one last thing. And you can even, if there's anything you think that's important, the audience know, add it in. But My question is, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to go deep rather than wide and develop a niche if they don't have one? Karen?
Yeah, so I think in addition to taking a look at who you want to work with, where is that the path of least resistance for you? Once you figure out what that category is, and it could be a neighborhood, it could be church, it could be whatever you want it to be. But once you figure out what it is, then sit down and figure out who is your ideal client and who's your not ideal client, and write all those characteristics down. And then make sure that when you market yourself and when you're talking to people and when you're writing your descriptions for your listings, when you're doing anything, that you're speaking to the client that you want to work with, right? You're designing a business and a brand around that person, that avatar, if you will.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
Mike, what about you? What would you, any advice you would give to somebody who is looking to find their niche?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, and Mark actually talked about it real briefly there when he hopped on. It doesn't have to be real estate related. I remember going to I think it was a class or something that Jason Abrams taught, and he talked about, I don't remember all the details, but it was a Facebook group thing, right? Like, create a Facebook group about what you around what you like, right? Yep. As an agent, right? Like, and you're the admin of that Facebook group, you can control who gets in and who doesn't, right? I think it was a client of Jason's years ago that was a tennis player, or I can't remember the whole story, but she created this group, and like, it was an agent, maybe a coaching client, I don't remember, but she was like played tennis, and like created a Facebook group around tennis. And
pickleball.
You do pickleball, right? And like just turned it into this whole thing where it was, 40, 50 people in this Facebook group. They all played tennis together, 2 days a week. And she was the expert, right? And she was the agent in that group, and boom, that's her business. So I think for people out there doesn't have to be real estate related. For me, it's I like investing as well. And investing in real estate is it's the one area that that really truly, if you think about it, even with inflation and everything, it's the one area that the normal person can invest in and kind of understand it, as opposed to investing in stocks or bonds or day trading or things like that. Like, you can look at real estate and people understand it, they can touch it, right? You can touch the walls, and there's it's tangible. So for me, I think people just need to kind of figure out what it is they like about the business and do it. When I first broke into the business, I did whatever. I did whatever I could to get a deal, whether it was take crappy referrals from agents who that didn't want to deal with them, because in my opinion, it was better to have 100% of something than 70% of something than 100% of nothing.
Right.
So that's how I started. And, I kind of stumbled into the whole investing thing because I picked up a couple clients that way. And then I liked it, and then, I mean, we've all watched HGTV, right? I mean, all these years of watching HGTV and DIY Network and everything else. And, real estate investing is always something I've always wanted to do. And, when I finally got in, finally made the leap, right? Left the job and ended up in real estate. And I mean, I can't, to this day, can't thank those guys enough for firing me. So.
Yeah. I wanted to add one more thing that I thought of. I hate to talk about the don'ts, but I think it's a natural wish, or people want to come brand new into real estate and jump in, try to start a niche in something they don't know anything about or they haven't had any experience in. Boy, that's a tough road. It's a really tough road. Figure out where most of the business is for you in the area that you enjoy working in, and just stay true to yourself. You don't have to be a slave to it.
I love
that. That's a great point. It's a great point. I did, And I've learned a ton too over the last 4 years, even being kind of narrowly focused. So, ever evolving.
Yes.
Mike, that Jason
are.
Abrams class, I feel like I might have been to. I remember hearing that story, and something he said that I think is worth bringing up here too. He said, if you're targeting a neighborhood, he was always very big on how do you kill two birds with one stone. And if you're targeting a neighborhood, how can you farm and make it a client event or something? How can you do two things at once? But I remember him talking about the leaf bags and like get yard bags that you're going to put leaves in the fall and put your logo on them. Pass those out to everyone in a neighborhood that you're targeting. And then it's basically a billboard for you through that whole neighborhood. So I liked that. Think of how you can hit someone twice, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody who's on have any questions or even have anything they would love to add into this conversation? We've got about 10 minutes left. So if you have questions, now is your time.
I will add in, we're starting a book club on our team. I think we're expanding it out to the entire market center, if I'm not mistaken, the book's called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. And the whole book is about what value you bring and the ROI on that. So we're talking about a guy that had a restaurant that was just thinking out of the box. He was listening, he was watching. Where are the problems showing up? Where's the slowdown showing up? Where are we falling down? What are they still needing that we're not giving them? And he went after that kind of stuff. That's what this book is all about. And it's an amazing book. So check that out. And in your own businesses, do that same thing. Just really be the fly on the wall every second that you can. And just glean a little bit of information that makes you different than somebody else and highlight that. That's part of your unique value proposition to get you going in your own niche.
That's such great advice. And Amanda, if you are listening, if they want to come, do they have to have read the whole book by Monday or can they listen?
No, so you can come on Monday and you don't even have to have ordered the book. And then you can join in with us on the format on how we're going to run the book club. And then we highly recommend after that you get a hard copy. Amazon has not hard copy, that you get an actual copy rather than, using one of those online book reading. What are they called? Kindle. Audible. My God, I can't think today. There's also one that has a binder where you can take notes and everything, but that one is much more expensive. It's like $55, but this book will change your business. There is no doubt. And it applies to everything. It's not just real estate, and it's not written about real estate. We're going to use it for real estate. And then I just want to say thanks so much, you guys. This was a great panel. I loved hearing about both of you and your what we call in England niches. We call them niches. I don't know.
We should have asked you.
Niche. And I would say for anyone that says, well, I don't know what my niche is, or I'm not interested in yoga or, fast cars. Look at your business and look and see just where it's coming from. And that's your niche, because we're doing business planning again tomorrow for a half-year retreat. And it's all about what's working this year that might not even have worked last year. That might not have, you may not have even thought that would be something that you would fall upon, or one source of your business that just keeps on giving because it hasn't before, but it's showing up this year. Make that your niche, and then just keep on doubling down, tripling down, like Karen said, because that can become it. Even if it's not kind of how you want to brand or market yourself, if you want the business, it's the best place to start.
You have to be flexible, right? You've got to be open. That's what my coach said. If you show up like this, you'll learn nothing. But if you come in and go, might learn something new today, do it. Yeah, you got to be flexible.
Absolutely. And can I point out too that Amanda, who has our largest team here in the market center, said they're doing business planning to review goals tomorrow. That's huge, you guys. It's, pouring back into yourself, the knowledge, looking at your scoreboard, looking at your business. What were your goals? Where did you want to be? Where are you? Like, I just want to say hats off to you guys for spending the time doing that tomorrow.
Thank you. That's why I'm not on camera, because I'm furiously finishing it up. And so you can't see what I look like as I'm doing.
That's great.
I was just
Yeah,
going
Mark.
to chime in, Jill. I had a professor from years ago who said that in order to be interesting, you have to be interested. And I think I was reading an article which was based on a book called The Homogenization of America, which basically its thesis is basically we're all kind of into the same things. We all stop at Starbucks on our way to Target, and we're going to watch HGTV this evening, and we're all kind of basic together, which I think there's some truth to. And there's no shame in that, but I think a lot of people aren't interested. It's, I like the things that I like and whatever. And to the point I think that Karen just made, like, if you feel like, what is my thing? Like, I don't know, what's someone that you admire and respect doing, and could you take an interest in that? Like, be curious. My wife and I were into too many things. I roast coffee and we raise bees, and she does ceramics and she thrifts clothes and all kinds of random things. And it's not because we're like trying to generate business through it. We're just like kind of into stuff. And if you feel like, I just kind of, I'm the Starbucks, Target, HGTV person, like, just be curious. Be who you are, but be curious, and we grow through that.
And when you're curious, you find opportunities to bring value. Maybe you're not into bees and they are, but you can connect them with somebody that is. That's a value to them.
Exactly. My bees died this winter, so I'm no longer in bees.
Oh, no.
I wasn't into bees enough. Whoops.
Amanda,
Yeah.
did you have something else?
Yeah, so Jeff Glover did a lead up about a month ago. I know Lauren Baker was there, maybe even Diane was there, Mike. I don't know if she was at lead up. But I can tell you that when they were talking about niches and branding and, being different, because having a niche is also you do something differently, which Unreasonable Hospitality talks about doing something that somebody else doesn't do, something that they don't expect. And then when you do that, it becomes your brand, it becomes your niche. And somebody really clever there said, if you look at the word brand, B-R-A-N-D. So B is the business. Whatever business you're in business, right? That's the B. The R is the reason, and that's our mission statement. That's why we do what we do. And then the and is the and. It's like what do you do that's different? And the +1, we call them +1s. And is our brand. What makes us different? So I think about like a Boca Raton agent that I remember many years ago. And one of the things that she did was at the end of her luxury listings, because you've got to imagine her price point was probably close to $1 million. She had this incredible gift that was, towels that had the initials of the family, luxurious spa items, all very, very luxury, very, very beautiful. And it was big. And she brought it to her closings, and there was nothing cheap about it, not a normal, nothing normal, no plastic. It was all very branded, very high end. And that became her brand. That actually became her niche, because people wanted to earn that silly gift, which was probably $500, $600, $700. And they wanted to work with her because it was so luxurious. So sometimes it's not even having a certain niche of the clientele or even the neighborhood or any of that. For those of you that go, I don't know what I can learn, or I don't know what I don't know, just do something extra specially different and run with it, especially if you can copy it from someone else that's not here and use it, and it works somewhere else, and then you become the leader and you have a little niche.
So I just did, can I say one thing real quick before we
Oh,
go?
of course.
Yes, I just fell upon this. So I just delivered a thank you gift, and I'm not huge on thank you gifts, but I mean, you send them a pizza, what are they going to remember from their dinner that night? So I did something different, and these clients absolutely were over the moon. I found a craft. I made them this little resin tray with colors, and it has little handles on. It's just a stupid little tray. And I said, I made this for you. And they were like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, now see that, I'm going to do that from now on. I'm going to make something for them because they think it's more special and I didn't spend a ton of money or a ton of time either, but it was just something a little bit different that they're going to remember. People come to their house and they'll look at it, find something unique about you for your brand.
Karen, the moment you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, like she had the time to do, that's so great. The message that gives somebody, like I spent the time. It's not about money or whatever. It's just the thoughtfulness behind that. That's huge.
It was fun.
What a great idea.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate you.
Thank you guys. So, Karen, I can't thank you enough for, oh my gosh, you guys, I call her. Yep. I'll be there in a minute. So thank you for
It would have been really boring with just me.
What was that?
No,
It would have been really boring with just me. So.
No, it wouldn't have. It would just been more investing. No, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for everyone who hopped on. And next week here we have book club. We have a mastermind with Amanda on Tuesday, and Carly's doing an AI class Thursday. So we got some fun stuff coming. Thank you all for being here and have a great rest of your day.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.